wasn't sure there was going to be a sparring match agreement that will spar for a while. I wasn't sure. I was honest about it. That's why he said it's going to go rounds. I wasn't sure if there was an understanding that, we'll play a little bit and then we'll get a little more and, whatever. So that was part of it.
Jake has had double jaw surgery, 4 plates, 8 screws in his face, and everybody is just kind of breezing past that like it's no big deal. But I'm looking further into this because that's no easy surgery, and I'm starting to ask the question, is this the beginning of the end of Jake Paul's boxing career?
As his brother, I was just shocked. I'm in the hospital with the guy, and he's like, yo, can you make this TikTok? Can you film this for me? He's like laughing and having a good time.
I have any agenda against Anthony Joshua because it feels to me like that fight, I before the fight, I was refusing to accept the principle that this fight could be scripted.
The boxing world has exploded with controversy after Jake Paul suffered serious injuries against Anthony Joshua. Some fans and commentators questioned whether the fight should have gone ahead at all, pointing to Jake's broken jaw and surgery as proof of a dangerous mismatch. Critics argued that Joshua's size and power made the bout unsafe, while others pushed back, saying boxing always carries risk. The level of damage shocked both fans and professionals and reignited debate about fighter safety and proper matchmaking in major crossover fights.
Away from the power, you could call it running, and you'll be right. You can also say it's smart for a guy of Jake's size and understanding that AJ is a fucking monster. It's also smart to fight that way. It's not the most aesthetically pleasing. It was
analyst Brian Campbell and Shaka Majui broke down Jake Paul's fight with Anthony Joshua by focusing on strategy and physical impact. They noted that Joshua's power caused heavy damage, including injuries that later required jaw surgery. To survive, Jake relied on movement, footwork, and constant circling to stay away from the ropes. While this approach was defensive, it helped him last longer than many expected. The analysts said Jake's mobility reduced some damage, but Joshua's strength still showed. Their breakdown highlighted how defensive planning matters, while also stressing the risks of mismatched, high-stakes fights.
The end for him in terms of what he's doing in the boxing ring.
Listen, so long as people will tune in and so long as Jake Paul is paid by Netflix or any broadcaster to air his fights, we're going to see this continue. And Jake Paul knows his business model, right? Now, this deviated, this AJ fight, which came together kind of last minute after the Tank Davis fight fell apart. But we know Jake Paul's MO here. It's find the most popular guy with the most physical disadvantages for me to fight. And Jake Paul has the benefit that he's turned himself into a villain, or in the pro wrestling circles, a heel. People tune in to watch. We did not tune into this fight to see competitive boxing. Most of us tuned in because we thought, here's Anthony Joshua. Here's a 2-time unified heavyweight champion, a guy who physically just overwhelms Jake Paul. And we're finally going to get what Tyron Woodley and Anderson Silva, Nate Diaz were not physically fit, whether it be through their size, experience, or age to do, and that is knock out Jake Paul. And so because I don't really feel like we got that satisfying comeuppance that a lot of people have been waiting for, it kind of gives Jake Paul a little bit of mystique, I'd almost say, to still try and string this along. Now, I don't know in terms, he says he wants to be cruiserweight champion. I'm not quite sure what the competitive road there is, because let's make no mistake, the reason this fight lasted as long as it did is because Jake Paul focused exclusively on being elusive. He did his best, and kudos to him, right? He did a great job of not getting cornered. He was always on the gas until the gas sort of fell out from underneath him. And so I don't quite know, short of leveraging his popularity, how he's going to get to that title shot if he's not actually going to fight, like really fight an elite boxer. But if he's looking to make money, there's the KSI fight out there, there's the Tommy Fury rematch. There is ways for...
Former UFC champion Michael Bisping reacted strongly to Jake Paul's loss, calling it a clear display of elite professional boxing. He said Jake was completely outmatched and pointed to Joshua's sharp combinations and power as the difference, according to Bisping. Joshua's pressure left Jake with limited space and exposed flaws in his defense and strategy. He explained that the broken jaw and punishment came from facing a much bigger, stronger, and more skilled opponent than Jake had ever met before. Bisping added that hype cannot replace experience, and the fight showed the clear gap between elite boxers and celebrity crossover fighters.
Humble opinion, because I'm a big Anthony Joshua fan. Of course, I've been a supporter for the longest time. A rather lackluster unmotivated Anthony Joshua that didn't look like he was being particularly nasty, right? Yeah, a lot of the time he was out of range, and okay, it is hard to land a shot on someone that's backing up and moving away the whole time. And there was a lot of times where he had him in the corner and he could have thrown a shot. And sometimes he was telegraphing his shots. And anytime he did go in to throw a punch, as I said before, Jake Paul would shoot in and turn it into a wrestling match. And even when he wasn't shooting in, he was clinching a lot. This is boxing, it's not MMA as we know. The referee should have done a much better job of getting in there and separating them. Round, I think it was the 4th round he got dropped twice. In the 5th round he got through it. In the 6th round, caught him with the jab, and a glancing right hook. He goes down, and that was that. That was all she wrote, right? I did a live. There was about 9,000 people watching at one point. Nobody was particularly enjoying the matchup. Listen, okay? I respect both men. I respect anyone really that steps into the ring, okay? And certainly going up against Anthony Joshua, that was a tall task, okay? You know, metaphorically and figuratively, right? It was a tall task. It was a big job. It was a tough opponent. It was a mismatch, and it was, right? Jake Paul never worried Anthony Joshua once. He never rung his bell. He never caused any damage. He never had him worried. He never did anything. It wasn't a fight. It was a display of how long can Jake Paul last? Can he run away long enough?
After the fight, reports claim both Jake Paul and Anthony Joshua earned around $92 million each, making it one of the highest paid boxing events streamed worldwide. However, Joshua's earnings were heavily affected by taxes. As a UK resident fighting in the US, he faces both American taxes and UK international tax rules, which could significantly reduce his take-home pay. Jake Paul, based in the US, does not face the same tax burden, allowing him to keep more of his purse despite losing. This situation highlights how headline figures often differ from what fighters actually receive.
Has to pay, as you see here, a whopping $43 million. $43 million of his $92 million purse. That means Anthony Joshua was left with $49 million. Right? Now, he also has to pay, I believe, 10% of that to his promoter, Matchroom CEO and promoter Eddie Hearn.
Dominic Engel offered a blunt assessment of Jake Paul's performance against Anthony Joshua. He explained that Jake's main goal was avoidance, not trading punches, which made it harder for Joshua to trap him. Engel noted that Jake absorbed a strong right hand without panicking, showing toughness. However, he also said Joshua did not need to fight at full intensity to control the bout. Engel compared this to other elite fighters who adjust their level based on opposition. When Joshua landed clean shots, Jake felt the impact, but overall the fight remained controlled, showing Jake's defensive awareness and Joshua's composure.
Fight. And AJ's not the best at closing people off, and it's hard chasing somebody down who don't want to engage, and then he tagged him every now and again. So
does it look bad on him because there's one right hook that he took was a serious shot, but obviously he didn't flinch from it, but the fact that
not really, because you'll take into consideration that you can get, there will be, look, there'll be no way. Well, Anthony Joshua thought, if he hits me, there's a possibility he's going to hurt me. I felt a couple of shots early on in the fight. There's no way Jake Paul at the level he's at, I know he's boxed and what he's done, that he's, you know, and it's like AJ, like you say, he's got to have completely gone and be punch drunk for Jake Paul to beat him. After the last fight against Dubois, people think, well, his jaw's gone there, he can't take a shot. Of course he can take a shot. And it's weighing up the opposition, and he weighed up the opposition. And he's not going to be training like he trained for Usyk or for the big fights. He won't do that because they can't get motivated enough to do it. They'll do enough to do the rounds. What was it, an 8-rounder?
Yeah.
So, same again. So he did enough. He never looked in any trouble. It didn't look great, you know, but Tyson Fury didn't look great against Ngannou, did he? But who did he box after Ngannou?
Was it Usyk?
Exactly. Yeah. But you would have never thought, looking at the performance against Ngannou with Tyson, you would never have thought that he put in the performance he did against Usyk.
So you think it's more of a case of you kind of, no matter how good you are and how much you train, if your position isn't great, you sometimes
you're going to box at the level of the opponent because the opponent makes you fight at that level.
That's quite a fair.
So, but when AJ did do what he got to and manages.
Engel added that lasting against a fighter like Anthony Joshua required courage and resilience, but the fight also reminded everyone how dangerous boxing can be. It showed that hype alone cannot prepare someone for elite competition. Emotions ran high afterward, especially from Jake Paul's family. His mother publicly criticized the situation, expressing anger toward the team and questioning why the fight was not stopped sooner. Her reaction reflected fear and frustration over the punishment Jake took. While some felt her response was extreme, many understood it as a parent's emotional reaction to seeing real danger inside the ring.